The ER was loud that morning. Too loud, honestly. Phones ringing non-stop. Someone crying about a broken wrist. A janitor arguing with a vending machine that ate his dollar. The usual Monday chaos. You could almost feel the air buzzing, like the building itself was tired of everybody's problems. And then, it happened. I swear to God, it was like the entire hospital took a breath and just stopped. No slow fade, no gentle silence. Everything cut out at once. The phone ringing? Gone. The arguing? Gone. The woman crying? Even she shut up. It was the kind of silence that doesn't make sense, the kind that shakes you in your bones before you even know why. And then, the automatic doors hissed open. If anyone ever tells you they've seen hell, ask them what it looked like, because I'm pretty sure we saw it walk in that morning, on 4 shaking legs. A German shepherd stumbled through the doors, drenched, and I mean drenched, like someone had dipped him in a bucket of blood and dirty rainwater. His fur was sticking to his skin, his paws slipping on the tile, like he couldn't even feel the floor under him. Blood. His blood. Someone else's blood, who knows, trailed behind him like a red comet tail, leading straight back to something you don't want to think about. And then, we saw it. He wasn't alone. Across his back, draped like a rag doll, was a little girl. The first thing that hit people was how small she looked. Kids are always small. But this was different. She looked weightless, fragile. Like if the dog took one more shaky step, she'd slide right off and shatter on the floor. Her arms hung down. No movement. Her fingers were pale, stiff. Her head slumped to the side, cheek stuck against his soaked fur. Her shirt, God, what used to be a white shirt, was now shredded and soaked red. One shoe, missing. Blood kept dripping from the ends of her hair. Soft little taps on the floor. Tap, tap, tap. Like a tiny clock, counting down to something awful. A nurse dropped her clipboard. It hit the floor like a gunshot, but nobody moved. Someone whispered, "What the hell?" Another voice said, Is he carrying?" But the dog didn't react. His eyes were locked straight ahead, laser-focused on the nurse's station, like he knew exactly where he needed to go. He took another step. His legs buckled, then caught himself. One more step, and another. You could see him fighting gravity, fighting pain, fighting exhaustion. Whatever had happened to them out there, it had carved pieces out of him. He slipped again, claws scraping the floor, body tilting sideways. Everyone gasped, literally gasped, like we were watching a building about to collapse. But he didn't go down. Somehow, this dog, this bleeding wreck of a dog, dug into the floor with whatever strength he had left, pushed himself upright, and kept walking. And in that moment, No one breathed. Not one single person. A doctor stepped back, like he couldn't believe the world was real anymore. A guard put a hand on his chest, like he forgot how hearts work. Someone else cursed under their breath, not in anger, but disbelief. The kind where your brain just glitches. The dog made it 2 more steps before his back legs gave out completely. His body dipped. The girl slid, just a little, and a wave of panic swept the room. That's when Rachel, Nurse Rachel Porter, snapped back to life. She didn't hesitate, didn't ask questions, didn't wait for permission. She sprinted forward. Hey! Hey, buddy! It's okay. I got you. I got her, she whispered, dropping to her knees. The dog growled, low, broken, not a threat, but a warning, a sound born of fear and protection. Don't take her from me. Please, don't take her. Rachel lifted her hands, palms out. It's okay. I'm here to help, I swear. And God, the way that dog looked at her, I've never seen anything like it. Not a look an animal gives, not even a look a person gives. It was something else, something human. A plea, a question, a surrender. Then, just barely, he shifted his weight. Just enough space for Rachel to slide her arms under the girl's body. She lifted her and almost buckled, not from weight, but from the blood, the coldness, the lifelessness. Oh my God, she breathed. She's freezing. Someone screamed for a gurney. Trauma bay! Now! Feet thundered. Alarms blared. Chaos returned. But in the middle of it all, the dog dragged himself forward and collapsed at the trauma room door. Even lying there, in a puddle of his own blood, he tried to lift his head, to look inside. Like he needed to make sure the girl was still alive. Like he'd die right there, if she wasn't. And honestly, from the way he looked, he just might. The second those trauma room doors slammed shut, it felt like the whole ER, I don't know, lost its soul? Like something important got yanked out of the air. The sound of the doors was loud, way too loud. This heavy metal thunk that echoed down the hallway, like a warning or a countdown. And then it was just silence again. Not the same silence as before. This one felt mean, cold, like the building was holding its breath, waiting to see if the little girl would come back or not. Inside that room, well, I didn't see it at first. But later the nurses talked. And yeah, it was bad. Abby. They didn't know her name yet, but I'm going to call her Abby. She was lying there on the table, like a broken doll someone had dropped off a cliff. Her skin wasn't just pale. It was this grayish-blue color that made everyone's stomach twist. Bruises everywhere. Old ones, new ones, ones shaped like fingers. She wasn't moving, Not even a twitch. One nurse, I think it was Kelly, whispered, "She looks gone." And Dr. Evans snapped back, "Well, she's not. Move." Meanwhile, outside the room, Scout completely lost it. You gotta understand, this dog was already half dead, bleeding, limping, shaking, barely able to hold himself up. But the second those doors shut, something snapped in him, like he thought they'd taken her away for good. He scrambled up from the floor, almost fell twice, and then he just slammed his head into the glass window of the trauma room door. Bang! Everybody jumped. "Whoa, whoa, hey, easy boy," a security guard shouted. But he didn't dare touch him. Scout backed up a step, chest heaving, eyes wild, and did it again. Bang! The whole door rattled. His claws scraped the floor, and he let out this noise. God, I still hear it sometimes. This guttural whine, half cry, half growl, like he was begging and warning at the same time. And the freaky part? His timing was perfect. Every time one of the machines inside beeped weird, or Abby's vitals dipped, Scout reacted, like he felt it in his bones. A nurse inside shouted, "Her heart rate's dropping, slicing down into the 40s." And right as she said that, bang! Scout hit the glass so hard his own blood smeared across it. Rachel spun around, eyes wide. He knows. God, he actually knows. Nobody argued. Inside, it was chaos. People shouting, gloves snapping, machines screaming. Someone yelled, "She's freezing! She's literally freezing! Get warm blankets now!" Another voice shot back, "She's not perfusing! We're losing her!" A doctor pressed down on Abby's tiny chest, muttering, "Come on, sweetheart. Don't you quit on me." And Scout? He just kept hitting that door, like he could knock it down by sheer will. Bang, bang, bang. The guard looked terrified. "He's gonna break the damn window." Rachel shook her head. "Let him. He's not trying to hurt anyone." The dog's tail wasn't up. His hackles weren't raised. This wasn't aggression. This was panic. Raw, terrifying panic. The kind you only feel when you're about to lose the one thing you'd die for. There was this moment, a really weird moment, where everybody in that hallway froze and just watched him. Like the whole room realized at the same time, this dog doesn't care if he dies right here. He only cares if she does. And that messed with people's heads. Then suddenly a monitor inside shrieked. A long, horrible beep. Not the flat line, but close enough that every doctor flinched. Scout's reaction, instant. He lunged so hard his body slid across the floor. He smashed his shoulder into the door. His paws scrabbled wildly, like he was trying to claw his way through the glass. He barked. Not loud, not aggressive, but this broken, desperate sound. Like he was saying, "She needs me. Let me in. Let me in." Inside the room, someone yelled, "She's in trouble! She's crashing! Move! Move!" At the exact same second, Scout threw himself at the door again, eyes wide and terrified. Bang! This time his legs folded, and he collapsed. He hit the floor with a thud that made Rachel scream his name, like he was human. "Oh God! Scout!" He tried to stand back up. He really tried. Paws slipping, body shaking, one leg refusing to work. But he pushed anyway. He dragged himself forward, pressing his nose to the glass, leaving a streak of blood behind. And then, barely audible, like a ghost, a tiny blip inside the room, and another, and another. Her heart rate climbed, from the 40s to the 60s to the 70s. The nurses shouted, "She's responding! Keep going!" Scout let out the softest sound, like relief, like hope. He slid down the door and rested his head against the glass, chest rising and falling, like he'd just run a marathon. And honestly, almost everyone out there had tears in their eyes, because in that moment, it didn't feel like a dog waiting for a girl. It felt like a soldier refusing to leave his partner behind. And he wasn't going anywhere. Not until she opened her eyes. And honestly, after watching Scout nearly die outside that trauma room, you'd think the nightmare had already peaked. But no, it was just getting started. Because the question hanging over everyone's head was simple. Where did he come from? Where did that dog drag a half-dead little girl from? So yeah, the cops didn't waste time. Within the hour, Detective Wolf and Ranger Josie were out back behind the hospital, following the trail that Scout had left behind. That smear of blood and mud he'd practically carved into the concrete. And, the weird thing? The trail didn't fade, didn't break. It just kept going, straight into the tree line, like the forest had swallowed him whole earlier that morning. The closer they got, the colder the air felt. Not wind cold, more like dread. Like the woods themselves didn't want anybody walking in. Josie crouched down first, touching a leaf stained dark red. "He was hurting long before he made it to the hospital," she muttered. Wolf just grunted. "Keep moving." They pushed deeper, and the noise from the town disappeared so fast it made their ears ring. No birds, no animals, no branches snapping. Just nothing. The kind of nothing that makes your skin crawl, like something's watching you, even though you swear nobody's there. About 20 minutes in, Josie stopped so suddenly, the deputy behind her almost slammed into her. "There," she whispered. And God, it was bad. Right in the middle of a quiet clearing sat this pathetic excuse of a campsite. A torn-up blue tarp tied crookedly between two dying trees, flapping in, the weak breeze like it was too tired to keep living. The fire pit was just ashes, cold, old, gray. The ground around it, a mess. Shredded cloth, broken branches, dirt kicked up, like someone fought for their life and lost. Wolf knelt beside a tiny jacket half buried in leaves, a pink one, torn at the shoulder, zipper broken. He didn't say anything, but you could see it. That hard, sinking realization hitting him like a punch. Then Josie said, "Wait, look there." On a log, dark streaks ran across the bark. Not mud, not paint. Blood. Dried. Cracked. Old blood. Child-sized footprints mixed with a dog's tracks circled the area in chaotic swirls, like they'd been pacing, or running, or trying to hide. But the worst thing, the part that made every single person in that clearing just stop breathing, wasn't the blood. It wasn't the torn clothes. It wasn't even the broken phone lying in the dirt. It was the tree. Right at the edge of the clearing, a thick oak stood crooked, and carved into its trunk were 3 jagged words. Not neat, not calm. These letters were carved like someone was shaking, like someone was furious, or scared, or both. No going back. Deep grooves, splintered bark, every stroke angry, desperate, like a man losing control. Wolf stared at it for a long moment. "Someone wasn't planning on walking out of here," he muttered. Josie didn't answer. She didn't need to. The energy around that tree said everything. And, you know, the thing that really gets me is imagining Abby here. This tiny kid, in the cold, in the dark, with that message staring down over her like a threat, like a promise, like a prison wall carved into wood. The deputies fanned out, checking the perimeter. One of them lifted something small from the dirt, a shoe. The missing one. Mud-caked. Torn. Another deputy called out, "Found hair ties. And I think this is her bracelet." Wolf rubbed the bridge of his nose. "She was here for days, maybe longer." Josie's voice dropped, soft, heavy. And Scout stayed with her. All the tracks, they match. He laid beside her here. Multiple nights. And for a second, just a second, the whole team stood there, letting that sink in. A battered dog, just as injured as the girl, staying in that clearing, night after night, keeping her warm, pushing himself between her and whatever hell Roy put them through. Then things turned even darker. Behind the tarp, Josie found a piece of rope tied to a tree root, cut, frayed. Wolf found drag marks behind the log, like someone had yanked something or someone roughly across the ground. And deeper in the dirt, faint but visible, the outline of a boot print. Not a kid's, not a hiker's, a man's. And it was fresh, too fresh. Wolf said under his breath. "Roy was here. Recently." Josie swallowed. This tight, angry swallow. She didn't just get kidnapped, Wolf. She lived a damn horror movie out here. Wolf didn't argue. He couldn't. Nobody could. Because once you stand in a place like that, where a child cried and bled and begged to go home but couldn't, Something in you just shifts. You can't go back to pretending the world is safe. And yeah, the team kept searching, snapping photos, marking evidence. But everyone knew the truth already. That little girl didn't just survive a kidnapping. She survived a monster. And somehow a broken dog had kept her alive. Standing there, in the middle of that dead, silent forest, the question hit all of them. The kind of question that doesn't just sit in your head, it hits your chest. What do you think? If Scout hadn't shown up in that clearing when he did, would Abby even still be alive? B or C? What's your gut say? And honestly, after what the cops found in that forest, nobody was ready for what came next. Everyone thought the worst part was behind them. But no, the worst part was waking up. It happened early, sometime before sunrise. The hospital was quiet. That weird, calm quiet where machines beep softly, and the world feels like it's holding still. Rachel was dozing in a chair. Scout was still curled against the glass, like a guard who refused to clock out. And Abby, well, Abby looked the same as always. Too pale, too still. Like life had stepped away from her for a minute. Then, her fingers twitched, just barely, like a small breeze moved through her bones. Rachel didn't notice, but Scout did. He snapped awake, like someone flipped a switch in his brain. Ears straight up, body tensing, nose pressed hard against the window. He let out this tiny whine, more question than sound. Rachel jerked upright. What? What is it, boy? And then she saw it. Abby's eyelids fluttered, slow, uncertain, like they were too heavy for her. But they fluttered again, and this time, they opened. Not fully, not bright, but open. Rachel gasped, literally gasped, and stumbled to the bedside. Hey, sweetheart, can you hear me? You're safe, okay? You're in the hospital. You're safe now. Abby blinked at the bright lights above her, eyes cloudy, confused. You could see her brain trying to catch up, trying to remember where she was, who she was, what had happened. And then, her lips trembled. Not from pain, from memory. Her voice came out so soft you had to lean in to hear it. And even then, it sounded like someone speaking through a storm. Scout, don't. She swallowed hard. Don't let him find me. Please. Rachel froze. She'd heard kids cry before. She'd heard kids whisper out of fear, but this was different. The way Abby said him, it didn't sound like a person. It sounded like she was talking about a monster, something that crawled out of the dark and learned how to walk on two legs. Rachel squeezed her hand gently. Honey, you're safe. Really, he can't get to you here. But Abby didn't look convinced. Her eyes slid to the door, to where Scout was still crammed against the glass, like a shadow refusing to leave its owner. She whispered again, barely audible. "He stayed. He didn't leave me, not even when he was bleeding." Rachel leaned closer. "Sweetheart, can you tell me what happened out there? Only if you want. Only if you can." Abby stared at the ceiling for a long moment, like she was watching something none of them could see. Then she started talking. "It was cold," she said, voice shaking. "So cold. The ground was wet and the trees kept making noises. I thought something was coming to get me." She paused. Roy, he tied me there, said we were starting a new life, said I wasn't going back." Rachel felt her stomach twist. "You don't have to rush. Take your time, okay?" But Abby kept going, like the words were pushing themselves out, because they'd been trapped too long. "The first night, I couldn't stop shaking. I kept calling for my mom, and he told me to shut up. He hit me. Hard. I couldn't breathe." Tears welled up in her eyes, but didn't fall. It was like she was too drained to even cry properly. And then Scout came. You could almost feel the entire room shift, not physically, but emotionally, like those words rewired the air. Abby breathed out slowly, a fragile sound. "I don't know from where. He just walked out of the dark, like an angel, a hurting one. He lay next to me, and he pushed himself against me so I could get warm." Rachel's throat tightened. "Even though he was injured?" Abby nodded. "He was bleeding. His leg was weird, and his fur was all sticky. But he stayed. Every time I cried, he licked my face, and when Roy yelled, Scout growled at him, and Roy hit him with a stick." She winced, like she felt the hit herself. "But Scout didn't run. He didn't ever run." Outside the room, Scout paced, slow, limping but alert, as if her words reached him through the glass. Rachel asked softly, "Sweetheart, how did you get here? How did Scout bring you?" Abby blinked, remembering something heavy. "I got tired, too tired. Everything hurt. My head. Everything. And Scout kept nudging me, harder and harder. And then I wasn't standing anymore. I was on him. I didn't know dogs could carry people, but he did." Her voice cracked. "He carried me even when he was hurting more than me." Now tears finally spilled, sliding down her temples into the pillow. Rachel squeezed her hand again. But honestly, she looked like she needed someone to squeeze hers too. Because everyone knew it now, clear as day, that what happened out there wasn't just a rescue. It was a battle, a war, between a terrified kid and a monster, with a wounded angel standing between them. And Scout? He wasn't just a dog in that forest. He was the only line between life and death. She had left. And the wild thing is, after Abby started talking, after those broken little whispers spilled out, you'd think Scout might finally calm down. You know, like, okay, she's awake, I can breathe now. But nope. If anything, he got more intense. Way more. It started maybe 15 minutes after Abby drifted back to sleep, that restless kind of sleep where her eyelids twitch and her breathing goes uneven. The doctors said she needed rest, but honestly, rest doesn't come easy for that kid. Trauma doesn't let go, just because a doctor says so. Rachel was charting something at the foot of the bed, eyes half on the paperwork, half on Abby, when suddenly, Scout froze, like statue froze. Ears up, body rigid, tail tucked tightly under. He wasn't even touching the glass, just staring at her through it, eyes locked onto something nobody else could see. Rachel didn't notice at first. She was mumbling to herself. Okay, fluid stable, oxygen's good, temp's a little low, but holding. Then a soft growl rolled out of Scout's chest. Not loud, not aggressive, the kind of growl that says something's wrong, even if you don't know what. Rachel looked up. What is it, boy? And then Abby's heart monitor beeped weird. Just a little spike. Nothing dramatic, but enough. Scout lunged at the glass. Whoa! Hey! Scout! Rachel yelled, jumping back. He slammed his head and shoulder into the door, like he was trying to bust it open again. Nails scraping, body shaking, time 300 pelhams. That same frantic energy he had the night they brought Abby in. The monitor inside beeped again, faster this time. Rachel stared at the screen, then at Scout. No way. He's reacting to her vitals. And then, it kept happening. Every time Abby's heartbeat sped up, even just a little, Scout growled, whined, or slammed himself toward her. Every time it dipped low, he pressed his nose to the glass, pacing in tight circles, whining, like his chest was being ripped open. And this is the part that made the nurses whisper. He reacted before the machines did. Seconds before. Like he felt it. Like there was some invisible thread between them that tugged at him every time her body fought the darkness, trying to pull her back under. At one point, Abby whimpered in her sleep, this tiny strangled sound that made Rachel's skin crawl. Scout howled. Not a loud, wolfy howl, no. A broken, aching, terrified noise that shattered the hallway and made two nurses drop what they were holding. Rachel moved fast. Scout, sweet boy, she's okay. She's okay. I'm here. I'm right here. But he wasn't looking at her. He only had eyes for Abby. Then the machines really went wild. Her heart rate spiked, sharp, fast, painful-looking numbers flashing up the screen. Abby twisted under the blankets, breath turning ragged, fingers clawing weakly at the sheet. Nightmare, one nurse whispered. She's having a nightmare. Nightmare? No. This was a flashback dragging her right back into that freezing forest. Scout lost it. He threw himself at the glass so hard. A spiderweb crack shot across it. Alarms blared. Doctors came running. Someone shouted, "Get security!" Rachel threw her arm out. "No! Don't touch him!" But Scout wasn't listening. He was fighting something none of them could see. Something Abby was seeing all over again. Her monitor beeped violently. She gasped in her sleep. Her little body arched like she was bracing for a blow. And Scout? He whimpered, low, devastated, like he blamed himself for not being able to reach her. Rachel pushed past a tech, pressing her hand gently on Abby's forehead. "Sweetheart, wake up. It's okay. It's not real anymore. Wake up." And slowly, painfully slow, Abby's breathing steadied. Her heartbeat softened. The nightmare loosened its grip. Scout slid to the floor, exhausted, his head pressed to the base of the cracked window, like he could somehow touch her through it. Rachel sank into the chair beside the bed, looking at him like she was trying to understand the universe. "Okay," she whispered. "Something's going on here." A doctor scoffed. "It's just coincidence." Rachel shot him a look that could melt steel. Coincidence? He reacts before her vitals change, before the machines catch it, before I even see it. That isn't coincidence. That's connection. The doctor shrugged and left, but the nurses stayed quiet, because they'd felt it too. That strange pull between the girl and her dog, like their lives were braided together, in a way that didn't belong to science. Rachel leaned closer to Scout, close enough her voice softened without her meaning to. "You're not just protecting her, huh? You're tied to her." Scout blinked slow, chest rising and falling, and it felt like he understood every word. Rachel swallowed hard and whispered, almost to herself, "She doesn't just need medicine. She needs you. If we take you away, I don't think she makes it." And honestly, nobody argued, because everyone could see it now. This wasn't a girl and a dog. This was survival woven together. Two souls hanging by the same thread. And the crazy part is, everybody thought the worst danger was behind them. You know, like, okay, she's awake, Scout's here, cops are on it, we're past the cliff edge now. But no. What none of them knew, not Rachel, not the nurses, not even the cops guarding the lobby, was that the real danger, yeah, he was already on his way. It started with something small, stupid small. A flicker in one of the hallway lights. Rachel noticed it first. She was sitting beside Abby's bed, brushing hair off the kid's forehead, whispering something soft. The kind of soft that's half lullaby, half apology. Then, the overhead light flickered once, then again. Rachel glanced up. "Okay, that's weird." A nurse shrugged. "Old wiring. Happens all the—" The lights flickered harder. Then the one at the far end of the hall buzzed, dimmed, and glowed this sickly yellow for a second before snapping back white. And Rachel felt something. Not cold, not fear. Something like a drop in pressure. Like the air itself braced for impact. Occasionally, real life gives you moments that feel scripted, like the world is trying to warn you, but you don't know how to decode the message. This was one of those moments, because right as that light flickered again, the side entrance door clicked open, and nobody paid attention at first. Hospitals always have people coming and going, but then a figure stepped inside. A man, wearing scrubs, a surgical mask pulled low, clipboard in one hand, walking with purpose. Too much purpose. And, you know how animals can sense things before humans can? Yeah, this was one of those times. Scout, who had finally been asleep after hours of guarding Abby like a broken sentry, suddenly jerked upright, not eased awake, not stirred, jerked, like someone poured electricity straight into his bones. He didn't even stand yet. He just lifted his head, nose high, ears pinned, eyes locked on the hallway, with this expression that said, "Something evil is here." Then he growled. Not his usual soft, warning growl, no. This was deeper, from his stomach, from somewhere ancient in him. Rachel whipped around. "Scout? What is it, buddy?" He stood up, wobbly at first, leg shaking, ribs straining under bandages, but he didn't care. He shoved his nose hard against the glass, growling louder, 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 until it wasn't even a growl anymore. It was thunder. A nurse jumped. "Jesus, what's wrong with him?" Rachel stepped toward the door, heart racing. "Someone's here." And then they saw him. The man in scrubs turned the corner, slowly, deliberately. The lights above him flickered again, almost like the electricity itself flinched away from his presence. Rachel squinted. Who is that?" At first, nothing seemed off. Just another doctor or tech walking the late shift. But then, and this is the part Rachel said later still haunts her, he lifted his head and smiled. Not a friendly smile, not even a fake polite one. A thin, dead-eyed smile that looked carved into his face with a knife. A smile that said he already knew exactly what he came for. Rachel's stomach dropped. It actually dropped, like falling down an elevator shaft. "No," she whispered. "No way." But Scout already knew. He exploded. He threw himself into the glass so violently. The entire window shook in its frame. Nurses screamed. A tray crashed to the floor. Rachel stumbled backward as Scout snarled, full teeth, full rage, slamming into the barrier again and again. Bang, bang, bang. "Scout, stop!" she cried. But he wasn't listening. He wasn't even there. All he saw, all he smelled, was the monster. And Roy? He didn't flinch, didn't pause, didn't even blink. He just kept walking toward Abby's room, the clipboard swinging casually at his side, like he was strolling into a break room for a cup of coffee. Rachel's voice cracked. "Security! Security!" But Roy reached the doorway first. He stepped inside, with that awful dentist office smile, and for 1 second, just one horrifying second, he looked Rachel dead in the eyes and said softly, "Hi, sweetheart." Everything inside her went cold. His voice was wrong, too gentle, too calm, like poison disguised as sugar. Rachel froze. Her heart beat. She could hear it. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't even scream. Behind the glass, Scout hurled himself forward again, body slamming into the crack he'd made earlier, trying to break through with sheer desperation. Roy lifted a hand, slow, deliberate, reaching toward Abby's bed, and in that instant, Rachel snapped back to life. "Don't you dare touch her!" She grabbed the nearest thing, a metal stool, and held it between them like a shield. Roy's smile widened. "I'm taking her home." And that single sentence, that calm, horrifying sentence, told Rachel everything. The monster wasn't done. Not even close. And the thing is, the second Roy said, "I'm taking her home," something in the room just snapped. Not physically, emotionally. Like the air itself recoiled. Like every wall, every monitor, every breath Rachel took suddenly screamed danger. Roy didn't wait, didn't hesitate, didn't give anyone a second to react. He lunged, not like a human, not even like a drunk guy swinging wildly. He lunged like a starving animal, fast, low, reckless, straight toward Abby's bed. Rachel barely had time to scream, "No!" But honestly, her voice didn't matter. Because Scout moved before anyone even understood what was happening. Remember how exhausted he was? How he could barely stand a few hours before? Yeah, none of that existed now. He blew through that cracked window with a sound that didn't belong to this world. This deep, ripping crack as the glass finally gave out. Shards exploded everywhere like a storm of knives. But Scout didn't care. He didn't even slow down. He launched himself at Roy like a missile. A freaking missile. 1 second, Roy was reaching for Abby. The next second, he was airborne. Scout smashed into his chest so hard, the man slammed back first into the wall, with a sickening thud that echoed down the entire hallway. Roy let out a strangled gasp, the air knocked out of him. Scout hit the ground, stumbled half a second, then sprang again, fangs flashing. Everything went insane. A nurse screamed, "Time 300 Belms." A tech dove behind a cart. Rachel grabbed Abby and shielded her with her own body. And Scout, God, Scout was pure fury. Roy tried to shove him off, grabbing at his fur, punching wildly. But Scout didn't feel any of it. He clamped onto Roy's forearm, teeth sinking deep, and ripped a scream out of the man so raw, it made the hairs on everyone's arms stand up. "Security! someone yelled. But honestly, even if security had been standing right there with hands on the door, they wouldn't have made it in time. Because this wasn't a fight. This was a war in a 10 by 10 hospital room. Roy swung the clipboard like a club, useless. Cheap plastic shattered across Scout's skull. Didn't matter. Scout shook his head and held on. Roy kneed him in the ribs. Hard. The kind of hit meant to break bones. Scout grunted, but didn't let go. He dragged Roy sideways, away from Abby. That was the crazy part. Even in full attack mode, he wasn't chaotic. He was pulling Roy away, putting space between the monster and the little girl. Rachel was shouting something, probably stop or help or oh God, but it all blurred together. The only sounds that cut through the chaos were Scout's snarls, Roy's howls, and the pounding of boots as security sprinted down the hall. Roy finally managed to twist free. Blood sprayed across the floor, slick and dark. He staggered back, hand clamped around his shredded arm, eyes wild, not scared, not remorseful, furious. "You stupid dog!" He reached into his pocket, and for a split second, everything slowed down, like the whole room inhaled. At the exact same moment, Rachel whispered, "No, no, no, no," because he wasn't pulling out a wallet, or keys, or anything harmless. It was a knife, a real one, long, sharp, dirty. Scout reacted instantly. He lunged again, but Roy was ready this time. The knife slashed downward, and it hit. The blade sank deep into Scout's front leg, deep enough the handle bumped fur. He let out a sound no creature should ever make, half roar, half broken cry. But he didn't fall. He didn't fall. He pushed forward. Even with the knife still lodged in his flesh, he threw his entire weight into Roy's torso and knocked him backwards over a rolling stool. Roy crashed onto the floor, skull cracking against tile. Blood smeared across everything. The walls, the bed, Abby's blanket, the windows, the door. The room looked like a horror movie set. But Scout wasn't done. He pinned Roy down, teeth inches from his throat, body shaking violently from pain, but still fighting, still refusing to let go, still choosing Abby over his own life. Roy flailed, kicking, clawing at the dog's face. One kick connected, hard, right under Scout's ribcage. He gagged, stumbled sideways, leg buckling, the knife twisted. He whimpered. And for a moment, one terrifying moment, Scout's body looked like it might give out completely. But then he saw Abby. She was curled in Rachel's arms, trembling, eyes wide, whispering something Rachel couldn't hear. Scout looked at her. Just one look, one heartbeat. And he stood back up, bleeding out, barely breathing, half unconscious. He stood anyway, and he growled, low and brutal, the kind of growl that says, "I will die before you touch her again." Security burst into the room at that exact second, 3 officers slamming Roy to the ground. dragging him backward, cuffing him as he thrashed and spit. But none of that mattered to Scout. As soon as Roy was gone, the dog collapsed. Right there. Right next to the bed he fought to protect. His breathing shallow, his pupils huge, blood pooling fast. Rachel dropped to her knees, hands shaking. "Scout, sweet boy, stay with me, please. Stay." And Abby, voice barely a whisper, reached out and touched his ear. "Don't go," she said. "Not you too." And the awful thing is, even after security dragged Roy out of that room like the monster he is, nobody felt relief. You'd expect cheering or some big exhale, right? But no, the only sound anyone heard was Scout hitting the floor. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was this small, heavy thud, the kind that breaks something inside you because it sounds final. Rachel spun so fast her shoe slipped on the blood. "No, no, 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 not now, not now." Scout was on his side, chest rising way too shallow, way too slow, one leg twisted under him, the knife still lodged deep. His pupils were blown wide, unfocused. Every breath he took sounded like it cost him everything he had left. And Abby, oh God. She woke up to the chaos, to the voices, to Rachel yelling his name. And then she saw him. "Scout?" Her voice cracked. Just one word, but it felt like it echoed across the whole hospital. She pushed herself up, so fast her IV lines jerked, and before Rachel could say anything, Abby threw the blankets off and crawled out of the bed. Literally crawled. Her legs were too weak to hold her, but she didn't care. "Abby, no, sweetie, stay in bed." Rachel tried grabbing her arm, but Abby yanked free, with this panicked strength nobody expected. "Scout!" Her voice was sharper now, desperate, breaking. She dropped to the floor, knees smacking tile, but she kept going. She dragged the IV pole beside her, tubes stretching, tape pulling at her skin. Time 8 hums. "Scout, please, please don't go." Everyone froze. Doctors, nurses, security, even random visitors in the hallway. It was like the whole building collectively held its breath. Because hearing that tiny girl cry out like that, it hits you somewhere deep, somewhere you don't even realize you have, until it aches. She reached him, pressed both hands against his muzzle. "Scout, hey, look at me. It's me. Please don't leave." Her voice cracked again, a tiny sob punching through. The dog didn't lift his head, but his ear twitched, just barely, like he heard her, like he wanted to respond, but couldn't. Abby leaned closer, forehead touching his. "You promised," she whispered. "You said you'd stay. You stayed in the forest. You stayed when he hit you. You stayed when I couldn't walk." Tears streamed down her face now, silent at first, then shaking her whole body. "Please don't stop now. Please don't leave me too." Then, barely audible, "I don't have anyone else. And yeah, that broke people. One nurse covered her mouth. Another turned away, shoulders shaking. Even the security guard, this giant guy with arms thicker than Rachel's waist, wiped his face with the back of his hand and muttered, "Damn allergies." Rachel knelt beside them, voice trembling. "Baby, we're not letting him go. The vet's on her way. We're helping him, I swear." But Abby wasn't answering her. She only had eyes for Scout. The dog tried, God, he tried, to move. Time 400 pounds. His paw twitched. His head shifted half an inch toward her. But the effort sent a tremor through his whole body. Blood pooled around him. Too much. Way too much. "Somebody get trauma in here now!" Rachel shouted. A doctor rushed over, kneeling, scanning Scout like he was a patient, not an animal. Because honestly, today, he was more than an animal. "We need pressure on that wound," the doctor said. "If we pull the knife, he'll bleed out. We move him as is." Abby shook her head violently. "No! No moving him! It hurts him! Don't touch him!" Rachel grabbed her shoulders gently. "Sweetheart, I know you're scared, but this is how we save him." "No," Abby sobbed. "People said that before and they were lying. Don't lie to me." Rachel broke. Just broke. You could hear it in her voice. "I'm not lying to you, Abby. Not now. Not ever." The doctor signaled 2 techs. They brought a stretcher, a human stretcher, and slowly, carefully, slid Scout onto it with towels and pressure packs. Scout whimpered in pain, eyes squeezing shut. Abby cried harder. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt him." Rachel gathered the little girl into her arms, lifting her even as Abby fought to stay close. "Let me go. He needs me. He needs me." She reached out wildly, fingers brushing Scout's fur one last time before the stretcher rolled away. And that moment, that second her hand slipped off him, it was like she lost her entire world. Her body went limp against Rachel. Her breath came out in sharp little gasps, and she whispered, "Don't let him die. Please don't let him die. He saved me. He saved me." Rachel held her tight, tears sliding down her own cheeks now. "I know, baby, I know. And now we're going to save him." But Abby didn't look convinced. She didn't even look hopeful. She just stared down the hallway, where they took Scout, the same hallway where Roy had come for her. And she whispered one last thing, voice breaking clean in half. "He's all I have left." And in that silent, awful moment, the whole hospital knew it was true. And the heartbreaking part is, the moment they wheeled Scout out of sight, everything inside that hallway just collapsed. The adrenaline, the shouting, the chaos, gone. What stayed behind was this heavy, suffocating quiet, the kind that only happens when everyone's terrified to even breathe wrong. They moved Scout fast, faster than anyone expected, straight to the emergency surgical wing, where the on-call vet techs were already scrambling, like someone shouted code red for a patient with a wagging tail. Rachel carried Abby the entire way because the girl wouldn't let go. not even an inch. She was shaking so hard Rachel could feel every tremor through her own chest, and Abby kept whispering the same words, over and over, like a broken record. Don't let him die. Please don't let him die. When they reached the surgical doors, the lead vet, Dr. Moreno, a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in 3 years, but still moved like caffeine was her bloodstream, stepped forward. "All right," she said softly, looking at Scout on the gurney. "Let's be honest here." And that right there, yeah, that was the moment everyone braced themselves. 60%, she said quietly. 60% he doesn't make it. Abby froze. Rachel froze. Even the air froze. Abby's voice cracked. No. No, he can't. He can't. He didn't leave me. He can't leave now. Rachel squeezed her tight, eyes glossing. Sweetheart, we're going to hope. That's all we can do right now. But Abby shook her, head violently, crying again. Hope isn't enough. He needs someone. He needs... Dr. Moreno knelt so she was eye level with the girl. Honey, he's fighting. You hear me? He's still fighting. But we need to get him inside right now. She turned to Rachel. I need you to sign consent. Rachel didn't even hesitate. She grabbed the clipboard, barely registered the words, and scribbled her name so fast she tore the edge of the paper. Abby tugged at her sleeve. Don't let them hurt him. Rachel inhaled shakily. They're trying to save him, baby. I promise. Then, the part that broke every single person watching. Abby reached up with both hands and unclipped Scout's collar. It was still stained with blood, still warm from his body. She hugged it to her chest like it was a lifeline, and she whispered, more to herself than anyone, I'll hold it for you, okay? I'll hold it so you don't forget to come back. That one hit people hard. Even Dr. Moreno's voice cracked as she said, We'll come get you the second he's out. Then the surgical doors swung open, and Scout disappeared behind them. And the lights above the doorway, the ones that signal in surgery, flicked on. Red, bright, unforgiving. The waiting room felt wrong. Too bright, too empty, too quiet. Just Rachel, Abby, and a vending machine that buzzed like an annoyed ghost. Abby curled into Rachel's lap, clutching Scout's collar so tight her knuckles went white. Hours passed. Real hours. Not the quick, movie-style montage hours. These were heavy, slow, cruel hours. The kind where every tick of the clock feels like a punch. A nurse came by once with water. Abby didn't drink. Another came by with a blanket. Abby didn't even blink. She just kept her face buried in the collar, whispering things like, It's okay, Scout. You can come back. I'm right here. At one point, a tech ran down the hall shouting for more saline. Another ran the opposite direction with bandages, and Rachel could feel Abby stiffen each time, thinking it meant the worst. At hour 3, the lights above the door flickered, not turned off, just flickered. Rachel's breath caught. "Oh God, is that?" But they stayed red. Abby's tiny voice trembled. "He's tired. He's tired and he's trying." Rachel hugged her. "He's stronger than he looks." The kid sniffled. "I know. But he's tired." The 4th hour felt endless. The 5th hour felt cruel. And then the light went off, not slowly, not gradually, just click. Dark. Abby gasped so sharply, Rachel felt it slice through the air. No, no, the light. Why did it? Before Rachel could answer, the door pushed open. Dr. Moreno stepped out, covered in sweat, smudged with blood that wasn't hers, mask hanging around her neck. She looked exhausted, absolutely drained. Abby stared at her, like her entire world was standing on a single answer. Dr. Moreno took a breath, another. Then she crouched down. "This dog," she whispered. This dog fought like he was trying to come back for somebody. Abby's lips parted. Her breath caught. Dr. Moreno's voice cracked as she said, "He made it. He's alive." Abby burst into tears, but not sad ones. The kind that rip you apart, because they're too big for a tiny chest to hold. Rachel cried too. Even the nurse behind them wiped her face. Dr. Moreno added, "He shouldn't have survived that surgery, but he did. I don't know why, but he did." Rachel knew. Everyone in that hallway knew. He came back because Abby needed him. And honestly, after hearing Dr. Moreno say those words, he made it. It felt like the whole world finally exhaled. But what nobody realized in that moment was that the hardest part wasn't the surgery. It was everything that came after. Because healing, healing isn't clean. It's messy, slow, weird. It sneaks up on you in moments you don't expect. Scout stayed in recovery for days, hooked up to IVs, wrapped in enough bandages to look like a lopsided mummy. And Abby, well, she refused to be more than 3 feet away from him. The nurses tried to convince her to rest, to sit, to eat something, anything. But nope. She camped beside his crate, like a tiny soldier on duty. Rachel sat with her, hour after hour, rubbing her back, handing her water she didn't drink, whispering things she hoped would help, but wasn't sure actually did. "Baby, he's okay," she'd say. "He's here. He's safe." Abby would nod, but her eyes stayed glued to him, like if she blinked too long, he'd disappear. A week later, child services returned. They came with folders and forms and the kind of polite smiles people wear when they're about to break your heart and hope you won't blame them too much. "Rachel," the caseworker said gently, "we're here to discuss placement." Abby instantly grabbed Rachel's arm, tight, not scared, not shy, terrified. Her voice was a whisper, but sharp enough to slice the air. "Don't make me go. Rachel didn't even hesitate. I'm not. And she meant it so. Hard. Her voice cracked. She turned to the caseworker. She's not going anywhere. I'm filing to foster. Today. The caseworker blinked, surprised. You want to take her long term? No, Rachel said without missing a beat. I want to take her forever. And that was that. By the end of the week, Abby had a new last name sitting on the paperwork, a new room in Rachel's small house, and a new life she never saw coming. But the craziest part? Scout moved in too. Not officially, not legally at first. He was technically listed as unclaimed while the city finished paperwork, but everyone knew the truth. Scout didn't belong anywhere except where Abby was. If she lived with Rachel, he did too. End of discussion. Healing didn't happen in some magical movie moment. It came in small, broken pieces. Like the first time Abby tried to walk down the hallway by herself. She was shaky, slow, gripping the wall like it might vanish. Scout limped beside her, matching her pace perfectly, step for step, even though the vet said he should still be resting. Buddy, Rachel whispered, you're supposed to be taking it easy. Scout ignored her completely, and Abby smiled. A tiny smile, fragile, but real. It was the first one anyone had seen since she woke up. Nighttime was harder. For weeks, Abby woke up screaming. Those raw, choking screams that rip out of a kid who's seen too much darkness. The first night, Rachel practically sprinted into the room, heart pounding, ready to fight off a ghost if she had to. But Scout beat her there. He pushed the bedroom door open with his shoulder, hopped onto the bed, way too fast for a dog with stitches, and wedged his body against Abby's chest. He nudged her hands with his nose until she grabbed his fur. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat steadied. She stopped shaking. Rachel stood in the doorway, tears in her eyes. Because how do you compete with that kind of love? That kind of instinct? Spoiler, you don't. You just let it happen. You thank God for it. And you try not to cry. Every single time. Days turned into weeks, and something incredible started to happen. Abby laughed again. Not a full laugh at first, more like a tiny, breathy giggle. The first time it came out, Scout's ears perked, like he'd heard a miracle. And honestly, he had. Soon she was drawing pictures, messy little doodles, all of them featuring her and Scout. Sometimes Rachel, too. Sometimes all three of them, under a big sun that took up half the page. She rode her bike again, slow and wobbly, Scout trotting beside her with his red bandana, like he was her personal security guard. She started eating full meals, sleeping longer, leaving her bedroom door open at night. Living again. Every step she took toward the world, Scout was there, nudging her forward. Every moment she faltered, Scout was there, leaning into her like a living anchor. And Rachel watched it all from the background, gentle, patient, proud, knowing deep down that these two didn't just survive together. They rebuilt each other. Because the truth is, Abby had fallen into the deepest, darkest pit a child can fall into. A place where light doesn't reach. A place where no one should be. And Scout, broken, bleeding, half-dead Scout, climbed down into that pit with her and carried her back up, inch by inch, breath by breath. One evening, Rachel stood at the kitchen door, watching Abby and Scout curled up on the couch, both asleep, both safe, both alive. And she whispered to herself, soft, almost like saying it too loud might make it disappear. This is a family, my family, from ashes, but still a family. And she knew, and without a doubt, they were exactly where they were meant to be. And honestly, for a while, things felt almost normal. Or, well, as normal as life can feel when you're raising a traumatized 7-year-old and a half-retired, half-bionic dog who refuses to leave her side. But none of them, not Rachel, not Abby, had any idea that something huge was coming. A twist so wild, it didn't even feel real. It started on this random Thursday afternoon. Rachel was folding laundry on the couch, or trying to, while Abby and Scout were in the backyard. Abby was stacking rocks like she was building a tiny fortress, and Scout was lying next to her like a furry security camera. Then someone knocked on the front door. Not loud, not urgent, just this steady, polite knock. Rachel wiped her hands on her jeans and opened the door, only to see Ranger Josie Martinez standing there. Boots dusty, sunburn on her nose, holding a large brown envelope against her chest, like it weighed 50 pounds. "Hey," Josie said. "Mind if I come in?" Rachel blinked. Sure, yeah. Everything okay?" Josie stepped in slowly, too slowly, the way people move when they're about to say something impossible. She didn't sit. She didn't smile. She just held out the envelope. "I found something," she said. Rachel frowned. "Found what?" Josie hesitated, which was weird because nothing rattled her. The woman once stared down a black bear without blinking. Finally, she said, "It's about Scout." Rachel's whole chest clenched. "Is something wrong?" "No, not wrong. Just big." Josie exhaled. "Really big." She opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of old documents, photos, intake forms, all stamped with an official seal. FEMA. Rachel blinked. "Wait, FEMA? Like the disaster people?" "Yeah," Josie said. "And, well, just look." She handed over the top photo. It was a younger version of Scout. Cleaner fur, sharper eyes, standing tall next to a rescue handler in a blue jacket. Both of them covered in mud, but smiling like they'd just saved the world. And on the back, handwritten in marker, "Valor, K9, Unit 14B. Rachel swallowed. Valor? That was his real name, Josie said, before he became Scout. Rachel stared at her. You're telling me he was a rescue dog? Not just any rescue dog, Josie added. One of the best, deployed to floods, tornadoes, wildfires, you name it. He went missing during a mudslide out west, a big one. They searched for weeks, but eventually, they marked him as dead. Rachel glanced toward the backyard window, where Scout and Abby were sitting together, sharing a granola bar, like it was a sacred ritual. She whispered, "He didn't die." "No," Josie said. "He didn't." Rachel looked down at the papers again. It didn't feel real, like someone handed her the wrong file. "Okay, but why didn't he go back to his unit?" she asked. "Why disappear?" Josie scratched her cheek, choosing her words carefully. "That's the thing. Dogs like him, they don't run away, not for fun, not because they're confused. If they go missing, it's usually because they found something else to do, something they think matters more." Rachel furrowed her brow. "More than a rescue unit?" Josie nodded. "Yeah, sometimes." Rachel's voice got softer. "Like what? What could matter more?" Josie exhaled, long and heavy. "Saving someone," she said. Rachel blinked. "Saving who?" Josie pulled out one last paper, a time-stamped satellite map showing the mudslide area and the radius where Valor was last seen alive. Then she pulled out a second paper, Abby's missing persons report. She laid them side by side. The timelines overlapped by almost a year. Rachel's stomach dropped. "No, no way. That doesn't mean—" "He didn't vanish randomly, Rachel," Josie said. "He didn't get lost. He left." Rachel shook her head. "But why? Why would he leave everything he knew?" Josie looked at the backyard window too. "Because someone needed him," she said. "Someone out there, alone, scared, broken, needed exactly him, and he went looking." Rachel whispered, "Are you saying he left his post to find Abby?" "I'm saying," Josie answered softly, "he didn't stop searching until he found her." Rachel's eyes filled instantly. She had to blink hard to see through the blur. She stared again at the photo of Valor. Younger, cleaner, almost majestic. And then back at the dog in her yard. Older, stitched up, limping slightly, but still guarding Abby like she was a treasure. "Oh my God," she breathed. "He didn't just save her in the forest." "No," Josie said. "He was trying to save her long before that. He just didn't know who he was looking for until he saw her." Rachel covered her mouth with her hand. Josie stepped closer, voice dropping into something warm and reverent. "And honestly, I think he knew the second he saw her that she was the mission. The reason he survived that mudslide. The reason he kept walking." Rachel didn't say anything. She couldn't. It's Chim 400 pounds. It felt like someone had just rewritten the universe. Outside, Abby giggled as Scout nudged her with his nose, and suddenly it hit Rachel, sharp and undeniable. Scout didn't just find Abby, he was meant to find her. Fate didn't mess this one up. It lined every piece up perfectly. A dog who shouldn't have survived. A child who almost didn't. Two broken souls, pulled together by something bigger than either of them. And Rachel whispered, not to Josie, not to herself, but to the universe. He wasn't running away. He was running to her.